All right, welcome to what is hopefully going to be a regular thing. This is, I'm going to say an experiment, but I don't think there's any experiment about us talking.
Sounds a bit weak. It sounds like we don't really believe in it.
It's like we don't think we can pull it off.
Yeah.
We're fairly confident that we've got the goods. It's just more around the presentation, the conciseness, and then of course your guys' willingness to take on board what we're putting out. So we don't have a working title yet. The red shirts might be too easy a name.
I don't know, I like it.
Not very descriptive, but working title, the red shirts.
Might piss HQ off though.
Might piss HQ
It's not
off.
a bad thing though.
That's true. Yes, they are quite fond of their HQ trainers, and that's the nickname for those guys. We'll figure something out. Anyway, the key is, guys, we want to just address a topic each week, and you know the way it goes when somebody asks a coach a question, it probably means that there's another 10 people who have the same question that they would love to know the answer to. So this is going to be our attempt to answer some of those in a broader sense, and also, of course, give you the answer to some of the questions you might not even know you need to ask us, aka us telling you stuff we want you to do better. And today we're talking about injuries and what happens when you get injured, what to do about them, that sort of thing. So the first thing I wanted to start and put out to you guys was that question when I sent you guys through that little brief. Like, what do you think about this gym, 09, and the programming that we do? Like, are we safe? Can we guarantee no injuries? You know, just sort of getting us somewhat controversial.
Straight in there.
Yeah.
Look, you can never guarantee no injuries. I think
Why not?
We're out there. We're doing stuff. You can't guarantee you're not going to get hit by a bus when you cross the road or anything like that. You doing stuff is going to be or going to make you a lot more likely to get injured. Sadly, it's just the facts of it. But on the other hand, the stuff that we do makes you stronger, makes you quicker, makes you faster, and it mitigates the chances of it. And I think that the programming that we have is world class, and it is probably the best stuff out there to make sure that the chance of injury, if it's followed correctly, is much reduced. If I'm honest about it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So we can't eliminate injuries, but we can do the best we can to minimise them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I don't think you can go into anything thinking you'll never get injured with it, and that's just not. Unfortunately, it's not the human condition. We always have that competitive aspect that makes us want to push or do a little bit too much occasionally, or you just do occasionally just have a traumatic accident, and that's the slight payoff of doing stuff. And living a full life.
I sometimes waver between saying sort of bluntly an injury is your fault. If you get injured, you pushed past the boundaries that you probably knew your body was capable of. But on the other hand, what I've sort of said lately to a lot of people is biological tissue can suffer wear and tear. And sometimes just, it goes a little bit too far one way. And there's factors that are harder to think about: stress, sleep, those sort of things. Sometimes you don't feel that impact coming until it's too late. And maybe the answer is it's a bit of both, And there are still stupid injuries, but there are ones that are just going to happen.
Yeah, we've spoken a lot. Hindsight's 20/20, and the times that I've been injured, you can look back then on the previous week and you say, well, I only maybe trained twice last week. I went out and had some drinks with friends on the weekend. Then I didn't train on the Monday, and then because of that, I was pushing myself a little bit hard on the Tuesday, and I was a bit competitive with someone on the running, and all of a sudden there goes a hamstring. And so you look back on it when you've got the time after the injury, and it's easy. But,
it's obvious.
But at the time, that's not what you're thinking about. So yeah, like you say, sometimes there is that biological wear and tear, or that not being prepared, and also, like you say, we do have a responsibility to ourselves to make sure that we are sensible with our training.
There's a short-term risk though with being active, like you say, but it far outweighs the long-term benefits of what it is that we are doing, which is that lifelong health and fitness. So being able to get outside, and that's part of what we do here too, is encourage people to get out and do stuff outside of the gym, and that's often where many injuries will happen. So the injuries and niggles won't just pop up from in the gym. It will happen to our clients who are out there doing stuff with the fitness they've developed in the gym.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I can be quite proud to say that most of my recent injuries have happened doing silly stuff outside, mountain biking, stand-up paddleboarding, one-wheeling, just doing silly handstand stunts when I shouldn't. But at the same time, just that resilience to be able to cope with things that do happen outside. And I've often said, you get 11-year-old with no ski poles just barreling into you laterally in Happy Valley, directly into the knee. You'll hopefully have a very, very badly bruised knee, and not a bunch of torn ligaments, or a dislocated knee. We might be more resilient to those as I call them, the oh shit moments when stuff goes wrong. Ideally, you're strong enough to deal with them, or you'll be that scenario where the doctor's saying, if you didn't have all this muscle, if you weren't so strong, this would have been much, much worse. You hear stories about that all the time, broken necks and whiplash and, more catastrophic things. Heck, I once heard a story of a woman getting bumped in a crowd, falling face first onto the street. Bus was coming in, she did a dynamic push-up, literally back to her feet. Which is a bit of that kind of superhuman ripping a car off a baby kind of stuff. But I would say she probably couldn't have done that without, a few hundred burpee reps under her sleeve, under her belt.
And the other payoff you have, you do hear of people saying, oh, whatever, CrossFit's a bit dangerous. People get injured doing CrossFit. But another thing that I always say is it's one way of getting people off the couch, and I would much rather have some sort of orthopedic muscular injury through having done something active than fall into a situation where I've got a heart disease or I've got diabetes, and that in the scheme of things that's going to kill you, that is much, much higher on the list versus an Achilles problem or a torn knee ligament or something along those sorts of lines. So where we are on the general illness wellness spectrum, you much rather have the orthopedic issues than the sort of more internal. I was listening to a podcast with Peter Attia and Tim Ferriss today, and they were talking health span versus lifespan, which is quite interesting. So medical science is getting a lifespan out there, but it can't really push it much further. We're all going to live to sort of approximately that 70, 80 years. If you're pushing past into 90, it's some sort of genetic thing, because people are making it even if they smoke and do other things incorrectly. So often that's sort of predetermined, but your health span is the quality of that up to that point. So again, funnily enough, just like nutrition, quality not quantity, and it's the same thing. Like, no one wants to live to 90 if the last 30 years of those just absolutely confined to your bed. I'd rather make it to 70 and have gone snowboarding the week before I kick off this mortal coil.
It's that age-old adage of it's not so much the years in your life, but
the life
in your years.
Too good. Love it. So of course I've misplaced my notes, but that was the first thing. So let's just sort of staying on this topic somewhat then. It's just a way to provoke some discussion, saying do we injure people in here? But so to you guys, what is it that's immediately apparent that we maybe do different to some other gyms? And you don't have to get too specific, sort of just some vague ideas around whether you want to talk programming, but maybe it's volume, maybe it's intensity, maybe it's just the culture around the workouts. There's a lot of things that could be responsible, but if we're saying that, and I'd like to say that we, look out for that stuff better than some others might, or at least have it much more front of mind than others, then what is it that we're doing different to address that?
And look, I think the biggest philosophy we have that is different from a lot of places is the movement first culture, and all of our members it's drilled in to everyone from the very start is that you can't add load before you can move through the requisite range of movement. There's no point in doing that. So we move first, and yes, we do apply intensity, but we apply it at the complexity level that the client is able to compete at, and I mean, that's the very basis of what we do. I think we're a lot more thoughtful about, or we're very thoughtful about it. I think that, and we have people here that buy into that as well.
So, to play devil's advocate, what I'm hearing is you said mechanics, consistency, intensity, which is the basic charter of CrossFit. So if we're doing that, are you saying that others aren't, or do we do it more, better, or is it more that you were trying to say something else? I'm just trying to throw a spanner in there, right? But it's kind of like, you got a safe space. I know. I've got to challenge these guys to think, right? Here's where I'm coming from. Is those sweat blotches?
Yeah.
No, we've got to try and break this, right? This is kind of where I'm at. Like, we try and break what we do and we can't, then we might be on to a good thing. But it's like we were talking earlier. Every gym like ours says their primary service, the thing that they're great at, the thing that they're famous for is coaching. We deliver great coaching. And so that's kind of where I was thinking when you, like, I agree with you that we focus a lot on that, but if we just say that that's what we do, does that make us the same as everyone else that's saying it? You know?
Yeah, it does. If put like that, yeah, absolutely it does. I feel that, again, every gym is going to say this, we are one of the best. We're certainly getting a name for people to come here when they are injured, because we can get them back to a stage where they can train and train effectively and train for the lifestyle that they want. And I think that reputation really only comes from word of mouth. And I guess it needs to be experienced. You're absolutely right. We can say, yeah, we were looking at mechanics and consistency and efficiency and all that sort of stuff. And really looking from the outside, as you say, we are only just saying that. No one knows that until you've experienced it, until you have experienced the coaching.
So we just do it better.
Better, yeah.
Well, we feel that we do, but again, that has to come from the personal experience of the client, doesn't it? Yeah.
I think there are now lots, maybe a greater percentage of these sorts of facilities providing really good movement coaching, providing really good programming, and I think that even really good coaching with subpar CrossFit programming is going to get you wonderful results. And it comes down to what you talked about earlier, is that they're off the couch, they're doing something more than they might have been doing previously.
Yeah. I've softened my stance on that a lot previously. Like, I used to get mad, feel responsible for people doing it right, delivering it right. I'd get sort of a bit pissed off if I saw some, sort of over the top programming and hearing about injuries that just shouldn't happen.
Yeah.
But in a little bit, if you take a much broader picture, right, the mile high view in terms of a population health perspective, yes, injuries at ACC are up, but by golly, we have got a lot of fit people out there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's a tough one. There's going to be a few people who unfortunately get the wrong service, less than optimal service.
Yeah.
And so maybe that is what it is. Here's the thing with I always hate when people say CrossFit this, CrossFit that, CrossFit do things wrong. No, CrossFit, they've put their sort of flagpole in the sand and they've said these are our beliefs and our values. It's how people interpret those. And so CrossFit, well, it's not like I said, mechanics, consistency, intensity. Don't come to me and say that CrossFit's bad because someone was snatching on their first day. I never said that. They never said that. They said mechanics, consistency, intensity. They said it once. They wrote a journal article about it. It's up to you to follow it. And so maybe that's the thing is, again, we just try harder not to accept creep
Yeah.
in that principle, whereas it might occur in some gyms where they come in so excited after they've done their level 1 and they start out that way, then they get busy and they get pushback and they start to feel pressure from their friends who are members, and next thing you know it's monster mash.
Yeah.
Big throwdowns,
Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays.
It's fun over function.
Yeah.
You can see it happening, eh?
So I think that's where, to go back to the first question, or the original question is, what are we doing different? I think a lot of what is different in that regard is then more mindset and a thing of culture. So there's gyms out there providing good coaching, providing good programming, and like I said, even subpar programming that's still getting good results. But what makes the facility different here and at 09 is the mindset and culture, which is one of lifelong health and fitness.
Yeah.
So we want to see people get to 69 and 51 weeks snowboarding before they kick the bucket at 70 weeks. And to achieve that, we need to we teach people how to back off and be okay with backing off.
I think that's key, really, is you said it, culture, and we all get it. It is fun to try things you haven't tried and just maybe put that extra 10 kilos on and push that a little bit harder, and again, and that might be where the silly injury happens. And over that course of, we have members for 10, let's say 20 years, we'll possibly hit at some point. We can guarantee there'll be, 2 or 3, 4 injuries. 3 of those will be minor, 1 of them will be serious, and that's just part of living a life. Like you kind of want to tumble into your grave a well-used human, and I don't mean like chewed up and spat out, like barely functioning, but just you should have a few scars and possibly a couple of aches and pains, but still be a pretty useful human.
I also think about injury is it's a pretty awesome opportunity as well to to see what you're capable of. You use it that way. Like the first injury, I don't care about that. But if someone continues to have the same injury over and over again with the same reason over and over again, we have to have a discussion about what's going on. But if you tear a hamstring and you use that as to say, well, okay, why has this happened? What can I do to improve it? Rather than saying, oh shit, I've had an injury, this is terrible, my life's over. You go, well, all right, I had an injury, it's great, I can do other stuff, I can train, but also I can learn from this and look back, see what caused it, and make sure that it didn't happen again, or it doesn't happen again.
Yeah, I really like that.
It is an opportunity to see where our limits are. Same way that we do different length of workouts and we test ourselves over a 2-minute time frame or a 7-minute or a 12-minute. You know where you can push in those through experience. Same thing with injuries. It's just a level back.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're still talking about your shoulder or your back or your knee 10 years later, it's that whole definition of insanity.
Yeah.
Same thing over and over again, expecting different results. Like, something should have changed by now.
Yeah.
And if it hasn't, there's got to be something wrong. Both with that particular structure and with whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, I think one of the big things that we do different in that regard is how we respond when injury happens.
Yeah.
And we've certainly been, I was about to say guilty, I don't think it's guilty, but I just think we've improved our process. In the past, and I still believe this is true for the most point, if you have some kind of injury, we can always work around it in class. The class, the way that it's templated, is always room for adjustment, and the coaches are very good at making those adjustments on the fly. And for most minor issues, that's exactly what we'll do. You just keep trucking. There's no end to what we can change. But what we've sort of realized and recognized over the last sort of few recent years is that if it's something a little more serious, then sometimes it's just not as efficacious, as valuable to tweak the class workout. You know, like if you've got a reasonably serious injury, the aim is to fix it as soon as possible and get back to it. So if you come and you just slightly adjust things, you know, I think that can be a limiting factor. For an ache or a pain or a niggle, it's perfectly fine because it's likely something that's going to clear up if you just get back to tidy movement and avoid the issue that was, might be some slight overload. But if it's a genuine injury, we should just do something else. And we're blessed and fortunate to have space to do that and the expertise to program that. And I think that's where we can make a whole heap more difference. The standard kind of smaller size CrossFit gym simply doesn't have the space for people to do their own thing. And then the member just feels like they're in the way because they probably are in the way, which is a shit thing to have. And of course, it's not long before they get discouraged. The coach starts getting frustrated because they can't fix the problem because they're only half pie working around it. And every day it's a new solution. Every day the members explaining to a different coach what's wrong with them and what they can't do. And I have, it's no surprise they get pissed off eventually. And so that's where a couple of years ago, we said, well, right, stop doing that. Let's do something that will get you fixed faster. And it's been phenomenal.
Yeah, I think we're really starting to see some excellent changes around that and around the attitude. And one of the biggest things I think is that people are now starting to ask for this. I think it's part of the human condition that we don't want to be a bother. Mm-hmm. And so we have people we did have people who would just say, I've got an injury, I need to put my membership on hold and go and rest. And it's a horrible thing to do. It's horrible to feel that you have to do that. Also, sadly, no one rehabbed an injury by resting it. You rehab by getting stronger. So we have programming that allows that. It allows you to come in during class time and work on something that is specifically going to strengthen the areas that you need to strengthen. You don't have to feel guilty about bothering the coach, who isn't bothered, by the way, because that's what you pay your fees for. And
if anything, they're stoked to have an opportunity to be of more help.
Yeah. So, but what this does do is it takes away that I'm not sure, and it gives you some sort of surety around. Is that even a word? Have I just done?
I think it's a word.
Sure,
it's a great word.
Yeah. Gives you some surety around what you are, what you're doing, and you know that every time that you come in, you're definitely working towards rehabbing your back or your knee or your shoulder. And also, you have an opportunity, if you've got a lower body injury, to get some real upper body volume in, and vice versa. Gains. Yeah. Beach bodies. Good time to injure your lower body at the moment.
Yeah. So you still will improve fitness through injury. If it is the lower body, then we'll keep improving fitness through the upper body, and vice versa.
And we can find plenty of ways to get you out of breath. You're still going to feel like you've had a workout.
What was I going to say further to that? But yeah, I think that's the key thing is not feeling like you're imposing, and again coming back to culture, what you're talking about, Imtiaz, is, and you sort of touched on it too, Fred, is knowing that this is okay, but also as a client of our gyms, you have to remember that absolutely it's more fun in class. Absolutely it's more fun. But you've got something that needs fixing, and the best way to fix it is by doing the thing that's best for you. And if we go like on paper, like computers spitting out exactly what the best workout was for you and for you and for me, it would be a solo effort because it would be 3 completely different workouts, right? But what we've accepted is that the world's best program is actually kind of boring to do, and training by yourself is not that much fun. Training with your mates elevates even a suboptimal program, like you were talking about, sort of a referral injury. So the sweet spot is, again, that if we accept over a 10-year membership that you're going to spend the majority of that in group class because it's awesome, and you're going to get 99% of what you would probably get if you did a specific program just for little old unique snowflake you. But that other 1% is for when you've got problems, right? And it's 6 weeks out of a 6-year membership. It's 12 weeks out of a 12-year membership, whatever it is. But that is zeros and points and very small percentages. Okay, so that's the thing. Like, yeah, it might suck at the time, but lots of things that are good for us, not so much fun. And so, if the issue arises, 6 weeks of self-reflection and working on your posterior chain or your midline or your shoulder stability, and then back into class. And you know what? You're going to enjoy it even more than ever. It's also a good reminder to our other members, don't let that person become a pariah. They feel stink enough. Make sure you acknowledge the person who's down the back doing their own thing. Okay, they want to be part of the crew, and the last thing they need to feel like is that they're not cool anymore because they're doing the leper program.
Yeah.
It's an important thing. We're all in this together. It seems like a small thing, but it can so easily go wrong. And I think, sorry to monopolize this, but I think that's where other gyms have perhaps fallen down in the past, because again, culture. It's one thing to say, hey, when you got an issue, we'll do this program for your injury. It's another to have it work in the the complicated tribal connection that we have here, right? And it's just little things can happen that you just wouldn't even think about with all that stuff, how things are perceived, and it's important that we just stay aware of it, and then we all keep an eye on each other and make sure that everyone feels good here and happy.
I think, again, coming back to that culture, it's another reminder that we want this to be people's the third place, and that yes, you may be on a membership that's 3 a week or doing away with that, but even if you're not training, this is still a place for people to come, and you can come and do your rehab or do your mobility, just come and hang out, do one of your focus blocks or do your rehab. But it's a place where we want everyone to feel comfortable to be, and I think having that programming, that individualized programming when people are injured, makes people feel more comfortable. Right, I can come in, I can do something, doesn't necessarily have to be in class, but I can be surrounded by my people.
Yep.
And that's a big part of why you guys are part of this community.
These walls give off healing vibes.
Yeah.
I would like to do a scientific study that if your doctor has convinced you that rest is the only thing to do to heal your injury, that you'd still heal faster if you just came and sat here and watched class versus on the couch at home. Right, soak up the goodness.
Always something in it.
Could
Getting
be.
a little bit hippie for me.
Yeah, but to be clear, I don't think that is right. You need to move. But move here, and then you get the double dose. Good vibes, good movement. So what happens? Let's wrap this up. We're probably going way over time for our first one. What is the first step for someone to do when they get injured?
Well, from our ideal, look, when you get injured, the sooner you do something about it, the better. This is sounding like a shameless plug, but come and see me as the physio who works at the gym and also coaches at the gym. And then that's you're almost using me as a triage person, so I can say, right, we need to do this, this, and this. You can stay in class, but instead of this movement, do that. Or actually, I think this is a little bit more complex. We need to probably pull you. And then I'm going to speak to Darren or Imtiaz or the other coaches, and we're going to put a program together for you for 6 weeks, and then you're going to come and check in with me or the coach who you feel comfortable with. Check in with them every couple of weeks to see if we can move on to that next phase. So basically, we've got some 6-week program that we're going to use, and it progresses every couple of weeks, providing you've hit the markers that we're both comfortable with. So we work together to do that program, but also you've got to check in to make sure that your things are still going in that right direction. So you're not just left on your own for 6 weeks. Okay, we've always got to check back to one of the coaches, or if it's a bit more complex, to myself, so that we can make sure that things continue to head in that same direction.
Nice. So last question then, what should people do before they get injured?
Well, it might sound like a shameless plug for me, but
no. Hey, I'm leading this conversation deliberately.
But hey, one of the other cool things that we're doing is we've put together a movement assessment, which is not just about range of movement around certain joints, but it's picking up asymmetries. We know through years and years of research that the biggest issue with injury comes from being stronger on one side than the other. It causes asymmetries in our body. So we've put together a movement assessment that can be done in about 15 minutes, and it's over the 4 major patterns that we use in CrossFit and in any training, to be honest, and put it together, and we can quickly pick out asymmetries that you may struggle with, strength through range or any sort of weaknesses, and from there we put together I wouldn't call it a rehab program, but it's a program that gives you 3, maybe 4 exercises to do as personalized homework.
We should call it prehab.
Prehab. Where do you...
Trademark that quick.
Yeah. And you can do that prehab as part of your warm-up drills, and for the most part that we do that consistently is the operative word. That should mitigate a lot of the injury potential that each individual client has. So those assessments are available now, and actually they're going to be, I'm going to be doing them on Thursdays in January from 5:30 to 6:30. So that's an awesome time to start thinking about them. So they're going to be Thursdays 5:30 to 6:30. I'll get 4 every Thursday, and they're just going to be, you're going to have to get in touch with me to book them in. But
Nice.
that's going to be
not to give Fred all the business, taking a little bit back for ourselves, of course, talking to any coach about concerns you might have about aches, pains and niggles, and sometimes it's as simple as adjusting that one movement in class.
Yep.
You know, the body, you know, you wake up with a sore neck some days, it's just how it goes. So same goes for your knee, shoulder, your ankle, and if there's stuff going on, it might just take a tiny tweak, and you're all good tomorrow. The key is addressing it, again, not thinking that you're going to be a bother, because you wait one day too long, it gets a little bit worse, you wait 2 more days, and then, you know, it's that same story where, I'm sure Fred's heard it a lot, where I've been dealing with this thing for 3 months now and I've just decided to come see you. You know, that's not a story he probably likes to hear, and same goes for us coaches, you know. About to test, you know, clean and jerk max, and you tell us that your shoulder's been giving you excruciating pain for 6 months. That stuff just really makes us bleed. So yeah, keep that dialogue going, that's what we're here for. And speaking of dialogue, below this video, please drop some comments. Start with some positive ones about how amazing this little show was. But what we want to hear is questions for next time. Give us some topics, stuff to talk about. Podcast names, preferred stance sock combinations, straddle pose, straight on, would you prefer one knee crossed daintily across the other? We're open to all sorts of feedback. So thank you if you've listened to this. We'll just keep trying harder to make it better.
Cheers.
See you.